Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about a new sort of pushback against these series of coercive and blatantly unlawful kinds of agreements that the administration is attempting to reach with various law firms and has reached with a half a dozen or so. Quick aside, it was an eye-popping moment when Trump boasted yesterday in a speech that the law firms that have been giving him $100 million in pro bono services and making these other capitulations have done nothing wrong. And indeed, they have done nothing wrong. These are about as unconstitutional and outrageous as things come, and yet they've been fairly successful. Let me just explain that a little more, because the firms who knuckled under have been totally now trashed for succumbing to it, and they're looking stupid, and certain clients are withdrawing from them because they want firms that are obviously going to be tough when they're having to take the administration on, not think about their own fortunes. And I do think it's true that the firms that decided immediately to fight what immediately seemed to be unconstitutional orders have been better. But I just want to say that even those firms, and certainly the firms that, signed off on things they don't even understand, but make them basically, vassals in some respects to Donald Trump in ways that have made their lawyers leave and enrage their associates, have these bona fide, if really sort of mercenary concerns. I know about a lot of the sort of meetings where the partnership gets together and they say, shit, we are really between a rock and a hard place. If we fight back, we know we're going to be persona non grata in the administration. We know Trump is vicious and really limitless in his viciousness. And so when we do big deals, especially on the corporate side, that have to get approval from the government, the hostility of the government, a sort of standing hostility, even if we've beaten their brains in on the order, is going to harm us. And big clients who are going to be giving us gazillion dollars are going to say, I don't think we want to retain you for this because we may have trouble at the pivotal time of getting government approval. I just want to lay out that dynamic, that why is it? Obviously, lawyers and law firms, craven, profit-oriented, bottom-line-oriented, tend to be conservative just because of the group dynamic. But I also, it's been painted in very black and white kinds of terms. Okay, that's kind of a long preamble, forgive me, because it brings me to the big development, which is there has been a lawsuit filed by the American Bar Association challenging all these orders globally. The basic kind of dilemma or tricky dynamic that the firms have had to date is Trump tries to pluck them off one at a time, put outsized pressure on them, and make an individual one knuckle under, and many prominent individual ones have knuckled under. And so there's a screaming need. This is also true in the university setting, also true in the media setting, to band together. The American Bar Association is the broad professional association for lawyers, and that whole idea is for them to come in and be the equivalent of the entire legal industry. We had before one of the law firms that were pushing back file a brief written by a very prominent person, and 500 law firms signed on to that. That was in the context of an individual action. But the 500 did not include most of the biggest 50 law firms in the country. So in other words, you have a lot of hedging of bets, firms that have gone weak in the knee, B, are sort of staying at arm's length to try to figure out, and C, even the ones, I'm here to tell you, that have pushed back against Trump in the courts, individual cases are coming to them where the partnership as a whole is having these kind of anguished meetings. Do we take this case? Maybe we should refer this case to a smaller firm that doesn't have all that will take it. And certain smaller firms are actually doing great now because they're getting these cases that even the bold law firms are shying away from. Okay, so what does that mean for this very interesting lawsuit, which is about 130 pages and has everything in the book? The caption page, Jones versus Smith, goes 8 pages in this thing. It sues everybody under the sun and on behalf. So we have the American Bar Association versus Executive Office of the President, DOJ, Pam Bondi, and it goes from there. It's just remarkable, basically suing everyone under the sun. And it lays out all the facts of the orders overall and has essentially every kind of claim for relief. The biggest ones are the ones that have been successful so far by the law firms. This is plain old retaliation for viewpoints of that the firms, or really worse, their clients have taken, or they've taken on behalf of their clients. And you can't discriminate based on viewpoint, or it's strict scrutiny, but you really can't, government can't retaliate and punish on the basis of a viewpoint that an individual citizen or group has taken. So that's where it leads. They also go to general First Amendment violations. They include what's called sort of, and this is a cross-cutting claim in Trump's different orders. You are weeding in Congress's garden. You are ultra vires, or you are violating the separation of powers. If Congress maybe wanted to impose policies like this on the individual law firms, well, maybe. But it'd be unconstitutional for the same reasons. But definitely, this is not for you to do, President. That's been successful. They speak about the Sixth Amendment because the law firms have brought claims and have standing to say you're harming our clients because our clients have a right under the Sixth Amendment to counsel of their choice, and you're basically putting scarlet letters on our forehead so that clients can't get whom they want because, we're being unlawfully kind of taken out of the marketplace. So it's really all there. Now, the ABA is an organization, and in general, we don't have to get too deep into this. We'll see what the courts first do with it. But organizations and standing are a little tricky. Does an organization have standing, an assertion of injury on its own behalf? What about on its members' behalf? This, I think, is going to be a fight. They're trying on the one hand to make this generalized claim on behalf of all law firms. Generalized claims are the very sort of thing that courts wrestle with when standing comes up, because they say you don't have an individualized grievance, you have a generalized one, which is another way of saying you don't have the concrete injury. That's going to come up. And the ABA knows it's going to come up in writing this. It's done its best to say we have associational standing and point to a Supreme Court case. But that'll be something that's fought inevitably because it's the whole organization. But that's the core of the strategy. Take the very difficult positions of individual law firms out of it and defeat the Trump strategy of divide and conquer. And again, I just want to point to that cynical statement he made at Jocular. Ha, ha, ha. These guys are giving me millions of dollars and they've done nothing wrong, which is 100% true. And, he's making it seem like they're suckers. And of course, the truth is he's a lawless jerk who's putting unfair pressure on them and putting them in this position. But in any event, The right thing here, sort of society speaking, is a social broad pushback. But we're in the courts, and we have, as always, the issue under Trump of the indolent, quiescent Congress. So in the courts, this kind of broad pushback can be funky. So that's the first thing we'll see. Even if it's struck down, this kind of blow from the entire organization and the kind of flexing of muscles from the one entity that represents all law firms, that's a meaningful pushback just in terms of the overall atmospherics here. Of course, it still leaves. It's not as if the industry has all come into line and said, oh, great, we're behind you, ABA. We still have these big firms that are thinking for themselves and are hedging their bets and the like. So the ABA is the closest you get to a general kind of proclamation. And of course, if they get the relief they want, let's say they get over the standing hurdle and they get the courts to say this whole area of business, Donald Trump, is unlawful. Just shut it down now. That's a game changer everywhere. It means for all the law firms, there are the 3 or 4 who have won, and it means for all of them there won't be any more of this. Of course, we are several steps down that road anyway, because 4 times now they've been struck back, but very cynically. The Trump administration is not appealing those orders. I think they totally realize that this is just complete lawless. I think this was sort of cooked up in the basement of the Project 2025 workshop. I know. Go against lawyers and tell them that we won't contract with them and take away their security clearances. It's outlandish. And it's the kind of outlandish stuff that's of a piece with Project 2025, and it goes way farther than any government has thought to do. So it's not lawful, and I think the administration knows it, and for that reason, it's not appealing as it does in every other setting. It's not beating its chest saying, emergency, reinstate this. It's like, we like this one at a time, and that puts maximum pressure on the courts. So if the ABA can win this case and get a kind of a general statement that these are always not just against Jenner Block, not just against Covington and Burling, but across the board, just cut the crap and now. So at least that will have an overall impact. And, it's not clear. It would turn on how relief is granted. And, will Trump still be able to kind of go brass knuckles with individual firms, including the ones who have already kind of put their integrity in hock to him? Maybe. But this is at least a sort of broad gauged industry-wide effort to really attack this as it should be attacked, globally in a wholesale way rather than individually in a retail way, which just plays into his hands. The case, by the way, is in the district court for D.C., where so many of these big cases are filed, and where I've mentioned before, the judges are the very ones who presided over all the January 6 cases, saw what absolute outlaws and insurrectionists these folks were, and then were appalled at the global pardons by Trump. That's the bench, and they've been a strong bench, even the Trump appointees against Trump. We do not know yet what judge has been assigned to the case, and that will, of course, matter. That's the next step. Right now, we just have the complaint, but I wanted to kind of describe it to you because it is a new sort of strategy, and this wholesale one in the overall pushback against the outrageous, unlawful, cynical, nasty as can be efforts by Trump to push law firms around and make them adhere to his political preferences in their pro bono practices. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.